Welcome, everyone. Happy, what is it, Tuesday? Hi, Tyra, Megan, Linda, Elizabeth, Kieran, Angela. Hi, Randolph, MQ. Welcome, welcome. Today, we have Doc Smith with us and a medical Qi Gong Q&A. We're going to ask him it's to me, you're way beyond medical qigong. So people could probably ask you a lot of different health questions, and you would have answers, is my guess. But Doc is a certified medical qigong practitioner and holistic body practitioner, trained at the Santa Barbara Body Institute. He's been in practice. Oh, say it again. What did I get wrong? Body therapist.
Body Therapy Institute. That's right.
Body Therapy Institute in Santa Barbara. Great. And you've been 10 years practicing in Santa Barbara. And I have been so helped by Doc's medicine ball work and the weight on the head. I do my long walks with weighted head, 11 and 12 pounds. And I'm feeling better in multiple ways. I have better posture. I have better relaxation in my face. My hip is better, all kinds of stuff. So he's a font of knowledge, and I can't wait to get started. So Doc's going to take it away, but I have a couple announcements first. Tomorrow, because we had such a good Q&A on the fears yesterday, I want to do another fear Q&A tomorrow. So what are your deepest, darkest fears? What are the things you're so afraid of? Let's unpack them together. We might do also a meditation and exploration there, but bring your fears to the table. Tomorrow is noon Pacific. That's Wednesday. This Thursday, Candace DeMeza, D''Meza, will be here. And we're going to talk decolonizing our minds and liberation. Candace is on Substack and TikTok, and you can see her on her website as well, her beautiful work. Monday, we have Netta Faye from Substack coming, talking about living the true self. And next Tuesday, we've got Claudia back for our fourth conversation, maybe, Claudia? The healing conversation. We're going to talk the father wound and religious wound. And then Tuesday, the 24th, we've got Niels Barazil. Niels, I hope I'm saying that right. We're going to talk circumcision and what we should be calling male genital mutilation and the troubles with that. Niels is very forward-thinking about this stuff and reached out to me, and I can't wait to hear from Niels. So that's on the docket. I will be off the week of the 16th. And that's it for now. Okay. We are going to do a Q&A, but first, Doc, you're going to read some things to us.
Thank you, Doc. Thank you, Dr. Meghan, for bringing us here together and hosting this. And what a great menu of stuff you have coming up, your calendar.
I know. So lucky.
Important topics and fear. That's a good one.
Good one.
Good one.
Like the thing. Yeah.
In Qigong and Taoist cosmology, fear is the acquired emotion of the water element. And so that's our urinary bladder and the whole meridian, and our kidneys and the whole meridian. So when there's dysfunction and there's tightness, there's collapse, the fear that we feel, we see the signature in the body at the same time, in the breath and everything. So good thing for people if we're going to be thinking about fear. If you at home, you're going to think about your greatest fears. Remember that you can breathe that fear out, release it, open mouth.
Yes.
Silent inhale into the nose and breathe in wisdom and embody wisdom. And that's our original attribute, wisdom of the water element. So I mentioned this because we're doing medical Qigong sort of basics and Q&A today. And this Taoist cosmology that we call Qigong now, it's been called other things in the past. Traditional Chinese medicine really is what it is. Qigong is one of the pillars of Chinese medicine, along with Tui Na, which is the body work, and acupuncture and herbs. So there's a whole philosophy and scientific understanding of what everything is, including what we are, what our emotions are. Um, and it all breaks down to what's called correspondences. So, and if anyone has any questions, please feel
Yep.
free. Type in
I'll be the moderator.
answer
Yep.
any. And I'm going to get to this reading here in just a moment. But since you mentioned fear, I like to just go with what
Go for it.
go with what comes up here. I mean, fear is the dominant paradigm that we're in.
Yep.
So for us to be able to reclaim and deprogram ourselves out of this pattern response that we're so into it, fear, collapsing into the fetal position, we can remember to release that out, purge it out of the exhale, and receive the new energy so we can embody our original self, our wise self. That's what we really are.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so it's correspondences. The idea that fear is the emotion that corresponds to the water element when there's stagnation there. And wisdom is what corresponds to the water element when it's free flowing and there's no disease at all and there's good function.
Yeah.
So water, wood, water creates wood. Wood is kindness. That's the original attribute of wood, is kindness. And then the acquired emotion is anger. Wood creates fire. Fire, the acquired emotion is anxiety or overexcitement, and the original attribute is peace and calm.
Hmm.
Fire creates earth. The original attribute of earth is trust, and the acquired emotion is worry.
Hmm.
Earth creates metal. That's integrity is the original attribute of metal, and sadness and grief is the acquired emotion of metal. And then metal creates water. So it's a circle, it's a cycle. So they all create each other, and that it's called the five element cycle of creation and control. So each element creates the next element, and it controls the one that's after that. So it's understood as like the mother and the grandmother. Like the mother creates the child, but the grandmother really controls the family still and the house.
Mm.
At least in in ancient times, right? All living together. So metal creates water. Metal controls wood. Like how an axe controls wood, right?
Yeah.
And metal creates water in the sense that if you go under the earth, you get down under the clay and the soil, and then you finally get down to bedrock, and there's a giant slab of metal, granite, and that's where the water starts to pool up, and you have an aquifer now. So metal creates water. Water then creates wood. We see a river or a creek, there's wood, there's trees. Wood creates fire.
Mm.
It burns down. And then fire creates earth. It creates more new earth now.
Mm.
And then so this is the Taoist cosmology that when we first got together on our first live stream, and I think I ended with the belly massage.
Mm-hmm.
You remember that?
Yep.
So that belly massage follows that pattern, and it shows us how we are this nature that I just described, that the metal element is down here. We begin that belly massage at the metal element down here, the large intestine. And we breathe in our integrity and body integrity. We breathe out any sadness for a few breaths. Then we move over to water, breathe in wisdom, breathe out fear, move up to wood. And so these are this is my metal element organs, my water element organs, my wood element, fire element, earth element. So it's literally right here.
Wow.
We are it. We are this nature that we see.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that's what Qi Gong is based in, is this framework, this cosmology of understanding that we are nature. We came out of Earth. We didn't get dropped here or created here from somewhere else and sent here. We came out of this. Yeah, so it's a really cool cosmology, philosophy, and all that. That's underneath all of this, and it defines health and disease in a very basic way that sort of translates to every symptom, and it really helps make sense of every symptom. Basically, that every symptom is a manifest. It's the evidence that there's some kind of dysfunction, stagnation, lack of free movement. Right. So, currently my arm, all the blood is flowing freely through it and there's nothing stuck. But if I just go like this and bend my elbow and ball up my fist, now I'm starting to affect that flow. If I, have a traumatic wound and I'm bleeding arterially now, well, now that flow is not moving at all. Right. So this is the nature of all disease symptoms is stuckness, stagnation, dysfunction. And what Qi Gong is about, what medical Qi Gong is about, is understanding how to use this information and this awareness in a medical sense to actually prevent and treat symptoms. In other words, addressing the underlying energetic condition that a person has, right? That's the foundational thing that's going on with the person. Is there's a physical aspect, spiritual, mental, emotional, all these different aspects, but really underlying it, we can call it energetic. There's an energetic aspect where we either have the energy of stuckness and tightness or the energy of relaxation and centered flow, right? So that's what medical Qigong is about. It's the practitioner helps the patient to understand the nature of their stuckness. And this might involve relating things like, okay, you're telling me that you're feeling frustrated, and you're also telling me that you're drinking a little bit too much. And looking at your posture, let's look at your posture, how your feet, you're doing the duck feet, or all these things go together as one thing where it's the liver energy. For whatever reason, our liver organ is it's being dysfunctional. And we can try to find the causal, what's the cause, but we don't do that in Qigong. There's no like trying to figure out what's the cause of this
analysis.
It's just, this is what's happening, and this is what needs to happen to have different correspondences. So if a patient comes in, they're frustrated. You're frustrated right now. Let's breathe that out together. Let's breathe out and release 100% of that frustration out of the open mouth, feeling the lips relax, the tongue relax, all of it, and release that frustration. And now let's slowly breathe in the nose and feel ourselves embodying kindness for ourselves and for others. And then breathe out again, any frustrations that we're feeling. And we can refine this. We can imagine a deep forest green color coming in. Imagine a deep forest green on the breath in as we're expanding in all directions, embodying kindness. And now on the breath out, like a slimy toxic green going out. Releasing any frustration that's left. So this is how, that's just one example of medical Qigong practice, right? That you can take and use that with anybody, and if you learn the 5 elements and which emotions are the acquired emotions and which are the original attributes, that helps people immensely, and none of these are my ideas. So everyone, please feel free to steal. There's no ownership over any of these. This all goes back 5,000 plus years, and so I wanted to, it's funny. I could just talk forever about this stuff. Thank you for being patient with me.
No problem. I'm getting comments that it's like alchemy. Tyra says, yes, we are not outside of nature. It's not something to visit. It's everywhere and inside.
Yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful. So who said that, by the way?
Tyra.
Tyra?
Tyra Perone. Yep.
Tyra, thank you. Thank you. That's beautiful. Well, if I do for maybe a couple minutes here, I've got a piece that I wrote about a year ago. I haven't really published this yet, but this is a historical retelling of what happened, and this is going to be very random, apropos of everything we talked about so far. Just the quick 101 on me. I actually got my bachelor's degree in history, so I've always loved reading about history and stuff. So I got my bachelor's in history, but I spent the last 20 years in healthcare. I was a medic in the Army for almost 10 years, and then the last 10 years doing Medical Qi Gong. And one of my criticisms is of our medical paradigm in the mainstream is I call it the military medical paradigm. Right.
Totally.
And you can see that it kind of fits within a patriarchal culture, right? It's militaristic, right? So it's all about targeting. Okay. That's a military word that you hear in the military. Who are we targeting? What are we targeting? What's our target here? Target. So we're always trying to control and kill, right?
The more on the body. Yeah.
Yeah. We want to identify, categorize, control, and kill. So that's what's happening with any problem, any disease that we diagnose. That's our solution to it. Doesn't matter if it's a foreign policy problem or a whatever, or a health problem, right? That's how the European culture has thought of this. So I'm going to read this story of what happened in the building of the Panama Canal about 120 years ago. And I read a book, which this one book is my own source for all this information, really. I'm just sort of reassembling the information and telling it in a different way from what he told. But the book is called Panama Fever. And basically in the book, he presents this idea that they were building this Panama Canal and they were having all these mosquitoes carrying diseases and killing people. And thankfully, they developed a vaccine. And if it wasn't for that,
I'm already suspicious.
if it wasn't for that, then it would have never gotten built. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and read this, and then we'll talk about this. We can talk about this stuff from the perspective of medical qigong and how a medical qigong practitioner would have treated this situation. Can you hear that plane that's flying up there? I live right by Goleta Airport. Or Santa Barbara.
Yeah, we can, but it's fine. We can hear you over it.
Okay. Okay, here we go. Imagine thousands of famished contract laborers from Barbados on a 10-day boat ride to Panama. They eat zero food along the way, and the throngs of people must remain on deck night and day, despite sweltering heat and no shade. They arrive to find a giant mound of pure cane sugar waiting for them at the wharf in giant bags, and they climb over each other, grabbing handfuls of sugar to finally eat something after 10 days. Then they are taken from the wharf to their barracks at gunpoint and treated more like slaves than hired help for the 2 years of their contract if they survive. There's no running water. Potable water must be purchased. All of the waterways are polluted with sewage and industrial waste. hard liquor is less expensive than drinking water. So they drank alcohol mostly instead because they only earn $1 per day. They toil 10 hours per day, hard labor, 6 days per week, in some of the worst conditions that one can imagine. 3 meals per day are offered for 10 cents each and consist of bread, and bread. On rare occasions, meat was served, but it was mostly inedible with maggots writhing in it. They had no means to wash or dry their sopping wet and dirty clothes, and often put on outfits that were already soaked in the morning for their day of labor in the torrential rains again. Initially, the West Indian labor pool was sought out because, in theory, these folks would be more adapted to the environment and immune to the mosquitoes, etc. But for some reason, over the decade or so that the USA was in charge, over 6,000 of these people died, and only 300 Americans. Doesn't seem like it's an infectious disease. The public health effort to eradicate the infectious diseases which were reducing the labor pool, began in the late 1800s. In 1905, after Teddy Roosevelt, for some reason, decided to support one doctor's idea to focus on eradicating a particular mosquito, despite all the other leaders involved with the Panama Canal considering the doctor's ideas to be crazy, a great fumigation campaign was begun to rid the isthmus of the supposed pathogen behind yellow fever. Starting in July 1905, all dwellings were fumigated, and that is only the beginning of the operation. They cut out huge swaths of flora and poured a thin coat of oil on top of all the waterways to remove breeding grounds, and sent specially trained public health doctors from Panama around to convince everyone that this operation was necessary. Well, what else began in July of 1905? They started offering $50 cash for each case of yellow fever that was reported to the authorities. And for the first time, running water was established. So what was the result of the fumigation campaign? According to the official story, the last case of yellow fever was on November 11th, 1905. Dr. William Gorgeous announced to his colleagues as they stood over the body that, quote, "This will be the last case of yellow fever." And son of a gun, he was correct. Nobody else ever was diagnosed with yellow fever. But 1906, the next year, was the deadliest year of the whole period. More people died in 1906 from all causes than the previous year when there was supposedly a successful yellow fever eradication campaign. But instead, the deaths were attributed to malaria and typhoid. What are the symptoms of malaria and typhoid? They're the same basic symptoms as yellow fever, especially when you mix it with pancreatitis and liver disease.
Yeah, just being poisoned all day long.
And considering the first line of medicine was, I mean, in those days, it was whiskey and they had concoctions of like opium and shit like that, you know, like you just get laudanum, whiskey, and morphine and things that would bring on all the symptoms that then they call it yellow fever. So, the rest of this post is just, describes basically how all these different diseases have the same symptoms. And then when you look at the side effects of all of the first line medications for all those diseases, all the side effects are, these are not if you take too much of it. This is just the side effects if you take the right amount, right? Of aspirin, of whatever. The side effects are, it's all the same symptoms. They're just exacerbating the same symptomology, calling it 10 different things, you know. And this is what we've lived through. This is literally what we've lived through. And we
still now
in 2020, was the big coup de grace to inculcate this militaristic mindset of targeting, right? Control, categorize, kill, single it out, blame it for everything.
Yep.
That's the one thing right there that caused all my problems from every single problem that I have. And it has nothing to do with the waterways are completely polluted. All I have to drink is water with slime in it or alcohol and literally just bread to eat. And the fear, let's go back to the fear. And they were being, there's,
Mhm.
they're being walked around at gunpoint
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yep.
right? So
Just talk about no flow. There's, their body's just seized up all day long.
exactly. So if we think about, fear, the fetal position, curling up, I mean, exactly. We're not going to be flowing and free in that position, right? So once people can be put into fear like that, it's such a mechanism of control. And in our like magic trick, that's actually science. It's the real science. It seems like magic to us because we're so inverted, but it's the real science of being human. They can try all that stuff they want to, but they can't make me be in fear. I can breathe that right out and go,
Not
and
buying
breathe
it.
it right in and go, boom, wisdom.
Mhm. Mhm.
Send the crown of the head right up. And it's like, no, you're going to have to literally kill me to mess with me. Like, and then guess what? Now you're a murderer. Now you're going to have to go deal with that karma. But
I'm with you. I'm with you 100%. No
we,
fear
we,
here.
ha-
Yeah, you're not going
we have the keys to deprogram too within us. So, so yeah, I mean, I just wanted to read that because I thought that could kind of just give us a good stark contrast
Yeah.
of what Medical Qi Gong is, like, based on what it is totally not. Like, that's a good example that I just read of how we think, right?
Yeah.
Or
Yep.
of
Still no.
our paradigm thinks of targeting, scapegoating, killing. And Taoist cosmology, Qigong, and all that, it's so different. It's, there is no cause of anything. There's no thing causing anything else.
No.
It's all just, it's
Where would you split it off? Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
right. I mean, because you can't,
It implies a breaking point of the flow. There isn't one.
there you go. When things arise together, right? Day and night come together. It's part of the same reality, It's, um, so yeah, are there any questions? I know we've got some good
Seen some
it's in there.
comments, some beautiful comments. Yes. Brilliant and common sense. Thank you. So sad, yet voices are speaking out. No fear. What I don't understand is why when we take medicine to cure a symptom, we then need to take at least 5 others to cure the results of the other medicine. Yeah. Well, that's
That,
the
that's how
secondary
we know
scam.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's medicine is a false paradigm. And when we talk about medical qigong, I don't really like the word medical, and I'm not a huge fan of qigong, the words either, because that's a newer thing. Qigong, it actually came um since the whole communist revolution. They rebranded Dao Yin practice as qigong.
Mm.
So qigong means energy exercise or energy work. And what? Thank you, PMR. So are you familiar with what happened in China in the 20th century and the Cultural Revolution and
Mhm.
what happened there with basically anybody who had the old ways, they were literally, killed or ostracized out of the family and all that. So that's how Wall Street and their government puppets around the world took China and turned it into, you know, their factory workers, right? That's what their goal was. Hey, we have this culture of people living in, these very basic villages with nature, and they don't want to buy anything from us. And And they're not materialistic. We need to change this whole situation.
Yep.
So they gave Mao everything he ever wanted, every tank and bomb he ever wanted. And he hated Mao Zedong grew up hating his family, hating his father, being ashamed of his backwards farmer family, thinking that that's how he thought. So he was given everything he needed to try to wipe that out, literally. Well, what happened was you can't really wipe that out, right? And it started to reemerge after the Cultural Revolution. And like in the 70s, people had so much grief that they were processing that spontaneous Dalian flow just started happening like in the streets. And yeah, there was led by some prominent women over there that are masters, and they helped to bring it back and help people heal. The government started realizing this, and they were like, well, we've got to, make sure that we control this. So we're going to call this Qi Gong. And to them, it was like a scientific way of describing what it is. It's the exercise of energy, right?
Mm-hmm,
so on a very basic level, almost anybody in any given moment, we're tight. Okay. We're holding it here. We're holding it somewhere. We're holding the elbows. There's some tightness, and the signature is right here in the posture. It's right in the body, the signature of tightness. And Qi Gong, as on the most basic level, is the transformation of this to this. Okay? And that, that's medicine. So that's the medicine. That's the medical aspect of Qi Gong. That's the thing that heals us, is that transformation.
Yeah.
So that I'm not a huge fan of the word medicine. And to the person that commented, it was like, we need 5 things, to cure us from the thing that cured us from the other thing. Yeah. That's the beauty of Qi Gong and of real health and real healing, which comes from within, is that no, there's no side effects. There's only good other side effects, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah. And the better you get, the better you get. Like it doesn't, there's not a cost to getting better.
Exactly. Just keep building. And that's my advice to anyone out here who's in despair. Breathe it out, release it out.
Yeah.
Breathe in trust. Breathe out any hope too. Breathe out hope and despair. They're the same frequency. Let it go. Mm-hmm. Any hope, any despair.
Yeah, hope is trash.
Breathe in trust. And, start building just little building blocks. Every day this comes up, we get another chance to do the best we can. And starting with the breath, it's what we're doing all day long. Mm-hmm. So, another major Qi Gong of energy exercise is the breath, right? So this is the most fundamental aspect of it, really, is, tension. We're holding it. We're not, a lot of people are never opening their mouth and releasing and going, ever, right? Yeah. And then on the way in, a lot of times we're breathing shallow. We're breathing up here. Mm-hmm. So we're taking breath instead of receiving it, and we're using shallow muscles up here, and we're breathing shorter breath cycles. Mm-hmm. So instead of using our diaphragm and using everything in the body in balance as it's supposed to be used, so nothing gets overused, right? If we breathe in and we receive the air rather than take it, we just breathe in and receive it, let it seep in. And then if I have any pain, any tightness, thoughts that aren't leaving, whatever, I go, release it 100%. And then continue repeating until I feel fine. And then I can breathe out through the nose and in through the nose. Don't have to open mouth exhale anymore. But anytime we need some pain release, we can go.
Love it. Love it. Love it. I teach what these women taught, that it's like whatever way the body would like to release. And, when we were kids, it was a lot of that. It was just releasing through the mouth, playfully moving the body, keeping it in flow. The body will show you where it's tight and show you what it wants to do.
Exactly.
You just have to pay attention. Yeah.
I love it. I call that the inner doctor.
Yeah. Totally. Awareness is the inner doctor. We are our own healer. It's a beautiful thing.
Felt
Jane says we should call it restorative Qi Gong. I like it. And PLR says, I love our individual learning journey. Empty mind is where we see the next best step. Yes, leaving behind the past of confusion. Love it. Randolph says, please discuss the story of the supposed great benefit of antibiotics. The stats we are given are said to show that much death has been prevented. Yeah.
You want me? I'm happy to take that one.
Great, go for it. PLR is love you too, and empty the trash. I love it. Living. Okay, we'll take that one, and then Tyra's got a question too.
Okay, cool. So that was Randolph asked that?
That's Randolph, yep.
Thanks for your question, Randolph. It goes for a lot. Every single medical product is this way. They say, they've got 6 ways from Sunday to lie about it. And
Totally.
one thing, you can look up on PubMed or there's many published studies that will show that comparing like children at the age of 5 who got antibiotics before they were 2 years old compared to children who did not get any antibiotics until after they were 2 years old. And the children that got antibiotics have 10 times more of everything. 10 times more asthma, everything, right? Now, it's hard to parse it because the same people that get the antibiotics are also probably the same people getting the vaccines and all the other things, right? So, but as far as antibiotics go, there's so many levels to this, and it applies to vaccines. It applies to anything that supposedly targets viruses, right? Anything that's targeting the one thing that is supposedly causing all my problems.
There you go.
If somebody's telling you, if somebody's telling you, hey, guess what? You don't have to actually change anything. You don't have to change anything about yourself or the way you see the world or the way you breathe or the way you stand or the way you move or the things you eat or you don't have to change any of that. And also you don't even have to go to therapy, to deal with the problems, that your dad and your mom couldn't help but impart onto you. You don't have to change anything. Just take this and it's going to target this one thing that's actually causing all your problems, which is not any of those things. It's just this one thing that you can't see it, but trust us. Trust us.
Viruses are real, and this one of the 30 trillion that are in the air, this is the one. This is the bad one.
And that's the thing that disproves any supposed microbe cause is the fact that actually, if you use the same test there, buddy, and test every day, you'll find out that guess what? You have that virus every 4 days of the year. A fourth of the time you test positive for that virus, and it means nothing at all. It has nothing to do at all with you being sick or well.
No, it's no. Like the guy that created the PCR test said it was never, ever, ever meant to be used in this way.
I read his book. It sounds like you and I have stumbled on some of the same awakenings since 2020.
Yeah, for sure. And I worked in integrative health, so I worked with Chinese medicine practitioners and stuff. So,
oh, that's cool.
Yeah. I got a good dose of 5-element theory and all the good stuff. So,
yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So when 2020 was happening, were they kind of like?
I had left by then. I left in 2019. It was all very well timed, and so 2020 it was yeah. But there was a split. The majority of the practitioners were not buying it. including the head doctor, an MD. They had osteopaths there, DOs, and MDs, but they would all describe themselves as functional medicine docs. But
Okay.
then he was given a cease and desist letter because he was telling people to take vitamin D. And then he came out with his next newsletter the next week saying, you know, um, we'll be pushing, we'll be giving the vaccines out when they're ready.
Oh wow. So he complied.
He complied, and and I lost all respect for him. Just done. Yeah.
That's the nature of the beast. It's a beast system. It's
Yeah.
crazy. It is
Yeah.
crazy.
It's crazy. I mean,
He
it
knew. He
is.
knew.
It's like he knew. He knew. Oh, the man knew. I mean, he this is a integrative clinic. It's called Whole Health Chicago. And he had, I mean, yeah, he knew, but he chose his business over integrity. And and he had been going that way. So, it was the split. It was like all the people I respected and the folks I didn't.
Yeah.
That's what 2020 brought. Yeah. But
Yeah. I mean,
but I have empathy. I have compassion. I mean, because we are so pummeled with this propaganda,
yeah.
the common person doesn't know. And it seems so real, and it's on our screens constantly. So no wonder. But,
They
at this
literally
point,
did scientific studies, in like the 50s, whatever, where there's a handful of, landmark studies like the Milgram experiments and Stanford prison experiments. And then there was the conformity experiment. And there was one that they realized that if you constantly pump the same lie for like 2 months, it's got to be for like 2 months, but you have to constantly pump it and never allow any truth to be spoken. 80% of people are completely convinced, and they'll never be not convinced. So that we've been it's the programming is insane. It's insane, and it's so effective. And you're right. We have to have empathy and love for each other. And I mean, I remind myself, I have to be like, I literally used to believe all this stuff.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
totally. Me too.
So
Yep.
I was
Yep.
completely with all of it.
Yep.
I remember giving the anthrax vaccine and reporting to the commander, like, we're at 94% compliance on the anthrax vaccine, sir. And, like, it was my job to give it and make sure it was compliant and all that stuff. And I was all into it.
Yep. Yep.
And
Yep.
so I've taken the anthrax vaccine, for anybody out there who's like, oh God, the vaccines are going to kill me or hurt me. This,
Yep.
we're getting the double lie. Have you heard of the, what they call it? The thesis, antithesis, and synthesis.
Yes.
The Hegelian dialectic is
Right. The dialectics.
right. So, like, this is how the programming works. Like something happens, and of course, it's not really real. It's just being declared, right? Or it's something happens, and there's an interpretation. There's narrative that goes out, right? The programming goes out, and it always comes down to this or that.
Yep. Yep.
Like,
Exactly.
something happened,
Black or
and
white.
conveniently, there's exactly two ways. There's only two possible ways that you can possibly think about this.
Yes.
You're either in this camp, or you're completely in the opposite camp, and you're a horrible person. Or if you're in this camp, you're a horrible person to all those people. And
Yep.
these are the only two options, and there's nothing else. So don't think about it. In reality, what they're doing is it's like a pie, right? And they took one slice, right? And they put us in the middle, and they go, here's your sides of the pie, right? Like, this is what you can think. But there's actually this whole, 90% of the pie that's
Totally.
there for us. And
Yep.
so they're doing this big time with everything since 2020. Lab leak, ivermectin. Guess what? There's no virus at all to leak out of a lab. There's no out of the ordinary anything happening.
Nope.
There's no out of the ordinary anything happening at all, except for, if you actually look at it, more ventilators more people were put on ventilators faster and given drugs like remdesivir and stuff like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's what really happened.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no lab leak versus a wet market. Those are the only two options.
Yes.
No, the reality is actually this whole other sphere of perception that is being not shown to us. The reality is that there is no COVID. There is no disease that we're sharing like as if we all have the same disease. No, every single person at every single moment is one of one.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Unique condition that has ever happened. That's it.
Yes. Yes.
And it's not caused by any one thing. It's caused by countless, many different factors. And the only question is, do we want to be healthy or do we want to stay this way?
Yes.
If we
Beautiful.
want to be healthy, then we just go,
just like that.
Extend the crown of the head up to the sky, right? And now we're doing breath, posture, mindset. We can release the frustration, breathe in the kindness, and movement is another big one, right? So what we call Qi Gong or Dao Yin, there's these different flows, right, that go with it because we're moving, we're creating movement where there was stuckness, and we're going through all the different ranges that we have, ranges of motion, to make sure we check the block on each one and go, oh yeah, I'm moving that, moving that, right? And then the fifth thing is inputs. In Qigong, we also understand that if we eat sugar, some processed cereal or something like that, that's going to create a lot of stuckness and stagnation, right, in these organs that have to process that. And this is a little truth nugget that anyone hearing this, write this down. This is one of the main things. My main teacher is Katie Mickey, Santa Barbara Body Therapy Institute. There you go. You can also catch this recorded on the replay on Dr. Meghan's Substack. So
totally. And I have an editor coming, and she's going to create clips. So
good. If you're just relaxing, if you're doing some of the breathing, you don't have to get a pen and paper. You can just listen to my words. My main teacher, Katie Mickey, one of the most profound things that I remember her saying during class at Body Therapy Institute was that everybody thinks when they wake up in the morning and their neck hurts or their shoulder hurts, it's because they slept wrong. They slept on it the wrong way. That's not why. The reason that we hurt when we wake up in the morning is almost always because of what we ate and when we ate it or drank it the night before. And I think she was showing us it's called the organ clock. And each organ, just like nature, has a high tide and a low tide. So there's a 2-hour period during each day that is the liver's high tide. And 12 hours opposite of that is liver's low tide. And that goes through for each organ. And that clock again follows the 5-element cycle, right?
Right.
So you might have known about this, right? The liver's high tide is 1 to 3 a.m. So she said, people think that they wake up in the morning because they slept wrong and their neck hurts, but really it's because they drank some whiskey the night before at 11 o'clock at night. And rather than having its high tide period unencumbered by that whiskey, that now it's like, oh shit, now I've got to process this whiskey.
Right.
So because it had to process the whiskey, now it's like it had double work, it had overtime to do, right? So how does an organ do double the work that it needs to do? It gets help from its friends, from any way that it can. It will take energy,
right?
And if you've got an acupuncture or anything, they're poking needles in us. Why, right? Or acupressure, squeezing us in these points. Why? Well, that's because this is a point that's on a line, right? It's on a river of energy. So like here's the lungs, it starts here and it goes along here and goes out the radial side of the inside of the arm, both sides, right? So so when we overwork an organ, okay, like our liver, we overwork it, it pulls energy along those lines. Now this is lungs, the liver's down here at the legs, but come wherever the corresponding meridian is, there's soft tissues all along there. There's tendons, muscles,
Right.
right? So if you think of a muscle or a tendon, that's, it's in good shape, and really what it is, it's a reserve of energy.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So now the liver has been given overtime work right before bed, right before high tide. And now this is why, every tradition, Chinese medicine, almost anything will tell you, don't eat after sunset, right? Because our organs have high tide coming up. We need to give them nothing else to do, right? So what people do is they drink or whatever, and then all the soft tissues that are along the meridian energetically connected to those organs that are now overworking, those organs pull the energy from those soft tissues, and we wake up in the morning and we're like, oh, my neck.
Right. Gosh,
Right?
I never have had that laid out. That's so true. Yeah, get it. Yeah,
It's profound. It's
profound.
profound. And this is
Yeah.
completely not recognized or
No.
understood at all in the so-called Western science.
Right.
And it
Right.
ties everything together. It's like, oh yeah, now
Totally.
I
Yes.
well, why
Yeah.
that pain was in. So this is why one of the thank you, PLR, bless you, my friend. So this is one of the reasons why I probably my number one, just blanket other than the breathing and the posture.
Right.
Um, Number one prescription is fasting.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Miriam
because
says the same thing, It's
I
to reset your gut and let all everything rest. Let the whole digestive
well,
system rest. Yeah.
exactly. So and when we let those organs rest, then they send the signal to all those soft tissues, those muscles that they had been depleting, and they say, "Oh, we're good now. You can have that energy."
Right. Right.
So that's why fasting is really a transformation on all levels. The physical, mental, emotional, all of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Makes so much sense. Thank you so much. That's a beautiful thing to lay out.
I
I'm
see
waiting.
some other comments and maybe questions. This is
Yes.
so fun.
Tyler says, yeah, Tyler. Have you
I got a
listened to the
solid 5 more
podcast?
minutes. Yeah.
Okay. Telepathy tapes. One speaker on there talked about how he healed his cancer entirely energetically through mind body connection, meditation, and energy work.
Beautiful.
Beautiful. I've seen bits and pieces of the telepathy tapes, but I haven't watched it. I'm so glad to know people are talking about it on there. I'm learning to and love this with you, Meghan Roekle, and your guest docs. And that's so beautiful. Oh, thank you. Charlene says, I feel like a guinea pig, just an experimental lab rat, and no one will advocate for me. I had something that worked for my schizoaffective disorder. Then they took me off that reason. Too expensive. It's $1,500 monthly, one med, 30 pills, brand name. Now they want me on something else. Tried, but extremely sick. A doctor accused me of giving away or selling them. They don't know me, but it's okay for them to accuse me. Never feel like I'm human. Oh, I'm so sorry. I don't have rights. Animals seem to be more valuable than human life. I know we have such an insane system. I'm so sorry, Charlene. Um,
Hey, Charlene, you can feel free to reach out to me if you'd like, my friend. I'll
yes.
gift you a session. We can work together over an online video and connect, and
Great. Great.
feel free
Yeah.
to reach out.
Great. And we can reach out to me too, Charlene. Um,
Welcome, Dr.
thank you.
Don Hall.
Hi, Don. Tyrus says, do you believe the body's illnesses spur from energetic blocks only? Or how would you describe it? Stagnant energy? Question mark.
That that's a that's a good general way to understand it. I also don't want to say this is the one answer for everything either.
Yeah.
there's the Tao that can be spoken is not the eternal Tao. So
Yeah.
there's mysteries and there's many different factors that combine. And who asked that question?
That was Tyra, I believe.
Tyra, thank you. Tyra, and for anyone else watching, this is the Bible of Chinese medicine. This is one translation by Mao Xingni. He translates it as the Yellow Emperor's Classic of Medicine. Other translations call it the Yellow Emperor's Inner Canon.
Right.
I'm gonna, apropos of that question, I'll just read
Good
from here. Okay, so this is the Bible of Chinese medicine. And the Chinese name for this book is called Huangdi Neijing. Huangdi means Yellow Emperor, and Neijing means Classic of Medicine or Inner Canon. Okay. And I'm actually, because you asked that question, what is disease? What is it about? What is the main cause? To answer that question, I want to read from chapter 13. This is one of my favorite chapters of the whole book. And we learned some interesting things in here. Let me see here. So, very briefly, this book is a discourse between the young Yellow Emperor, who becomes the emperor who unites China. As a youngster, he's receiving instruction from his tutors, and they're called his heavenly teachers. So the book is just a discourse between like a 10-year-old Yellow Emperor and his teachers. Okay. Chapter 13, Treatment of the Mind and the Body is the name of the chapter. Huangdi asked, I have heard that in ancient times, when the sages treated, all they had to do was employ methods to guide and change the emotional and spiritual state of a person and to redirect the energy flow. The sages utilized a method called Zhu Wo, prayer, ceremony, and shamanism, which healed all conditions. Today, however, when doctors treat a patient, they use herbs to treat the internal aspect and acupuncture to treat the exterior. Mm-hmm. Yet some conditions do not respond. Why is this? Chibo answered, in ancient times, people lived simply. They hunted and fished and were with nature all day. When the weather cooled, they became active to fend off the cold. When the weather heated up in summer, they retreated to cool places. Internally, their emotions were calm and peaceful, and they were without excessive desires. Externally, they did not have the stress of today. They lived without greed and desire, close to nature. They maintained Jingshen Ituo, or inner peace and concentration of the mind and spirit. This prevented the pathogens from invading. Therefore, they did not need herbs to treat their internal state, nor did they need acupuncture to treat the exterior. When they did contract disease, they simply guided properly the emotions and spirit and redirected the energy flow using the method of Zhu Wo to heal the condition. I could continue on. This is such an amazing book, but this is, we want to know what's the cause, what's the main reason, what's the one thing. There is no one thing, except if there is one thing, what I have been saying is that the one thing that's the cause of our symptoms and our disease, the one thing is our lack of this culture, of the practice, of this understanding and, not just daily, but all the time, really, creating a new normal of, oh yeah, I'm holding on to energy.
Yeah.
I'm holding flow. Right. I've got this emotion that I call it my anxiety. Right. And my fist balls up and my elbows bent and it's just my anxiety.
I'm identified with it.
Right. It's your breathing is shallow. You're taking, not receiving your breath. You're never letting it go. You're not expanding your posture. You're not releasing the anxiety and then breathing in calm and embodying calm intentionally. But all we have to do is just give the knowledge, and little children love this stuff. And they go,
Oh.
I'm breathing in my wisdom, breathing
Yeah.
out fear, and they love it. Right. And
Yeah.
then,
Sure.
so, so to answer, Tyra's question, I think the main cause of our problems is that we don't have a practice. Typically, people don't have a practice, and a lot of times we have practices that are almost worse, right?
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
I mean,
Completely dehumanized practices.
yeah, I mean, like going to the gym and like doing stuff like stuff that's actually just making us more tight and more tense in the patterns that we already have. So,
Mhm. And making us into an image, not really listening to the body, not listening to the flow,
right,
not listening to what you wanna actually eat, not listening to how you
right,
wanna actually move.
right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, so yeah, I think for Tyra, for anyone who's wondering, what is the main cause of symptoms and diseases and illnesses that humans have, the main cause is so many things that we can't even begin to name one. There's 10,000 factors coming together, mainly breathing, posture, mindset, movement, and inputs, and really the lack of a practice is what sums it up, because
Mhm.
we have a practice of breathing in a healthy way, posture in a healthy way, mindset, movement, and inputs.
Mhm.
And we actually create a new normal in
Mhm.
those terms, right? Because the point of our yoga practice is not just to do, 3 times a week for 1 hour at that time. And then the other 165 hours we're like not a yogi.
Mm. Mhm.
No, it's the point of practice is to create a new normal,
Mhm.
right? So that way, wherever we are, we're, you know, getting ready to go into a meeting and it's intense and whatever, we can remember to release out, open mouth,
Mhm.
maybe go to the bathroom if we need to, whatever,
Mhm.
to have some time to do our practice.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so I think that's the thing that is causing our illness is just mainly our lack of practice of grooving and
Yeah.
and getting, used to recreating a pattern now that is healthy, right?
Mhm.
Healthy
And that's
breathing.
natural. That actually is as how your body wants to move. I'm all for every kind of movement and make sure it feels good. That it's actually you want to do it. I think we need practice because we aren't connected to nature because we don't have natural movements in this modern world. But the more we can just like I was a Bollywood dancer and a lot of the moves are just I used to teach Bollywood. A lot of the moves are just full, like women, like it would be like snapping laundry in the wind, and that's the move. All these different folk movements, basically.
I love that.
Yeah, and it was just the natural right, and this was your exercise, this was your practice, which is literally just living life very, very connected to the everyday, very connected to your body.
Mhm.
Um, so I'm all for, yes, a practice and a new normal, which is really just being embodied and
Yep.
following our natural thing. My practice is very long walks with bags of rice on my head and dancing, and weird, whatever I feel like doing. Um, so as long as it doesn't, because I come from psychology, right? People can like because we've had such your words targeted is so good. We have this targeted and siloed idea of practice or health. And I'm going to do this one thing. I'm going to go to the gym and do this thing, or I have this yoga practice and I do it every 3 days. It's to just to be inspired by all the things you offer. Because I tell you, you're the weight ish thing. I was like, this is what I want to do. This is not a practice. This isn't any. This just feels great.
Good,
And so I do it because it feels great.
good,
Yeah.
good.
And because my life isn't set up, to have to take, bags of food back from the market. I have my truck. So I have to sort of artificially create it, which makes it a practice. But I just want to emphasize fun is the key to keep it going, because then it's true, then it's real, then it's actually your body leading versus your fear of like, I'm not going to be healthy, so I have to have a practice, or I'm not going to be fit, or I'm going to die alone, or whatever, which
Right.
I know drives so many actions.
Uh-huh. And then we end up and we have that fear, which is
Yes.
this fetal position collapse.
Yes.
Then we go and do our practice. And even if we're doing yoga, people are doing core crunches and yoga.
Yes. Yes, they come out more stiff and more, yeah,
So,
totally.
so you're exactly right. It's, harmony and balance truly coming into ourselves, being embodied. That
Yes.
that's what I mean. The difference in embodiment. And I'm glad you mentioned this Jing Palace method because
Mhm. Get my ball.
out of everything I've done so far and everything I found, this is the number one way. I mean, it's just the
Great.
most simple, most repeatable, most enjoyable, like you said, like most effective, most transformational on all the levels. Is this right here? But the difference in embodiment between being actually aligned properly right here and being, what is this? Is this fear? Me being in fear, me being afraid of what? Of being tall, of being full, of
Mhm.
right. It's
Mhm.
eh,
Mhm.
so we're so we're so patterned into that disembodiment of we're no longer in our body with our actual flow of blood, and we're we're collapsing into some
Yeah.
thoughts and emotions that were letting us letting it run our lives. And
Exactly. Exactly.
well, I'm just imagining you now as a Bollywood dancer, and I think it looks amazing, and I can't wait to see. I
There's some video out there. I won't.
oh boy. Well,
In
you
my shiny, my sequined, my balloon pants and sequin tops and saris and beautiful, beautiful stuff. It was really fun.
I
Um,
I love that stuff, and
oh, it was so fun.
I I think that dancing head loaded is one of the best, like walking and dancing.
Yeah. Yeah. I haven't tried dancing with my head loaded yet, but I I mean, I will. I mean,
I,
I probably have to do it with the ball. Like, what I love about the rice is that it molds to my head, so I don't have to put my arms
I
up, and
that's
it helps me, like, with my balance. It also really is helping with my hip rotation. Like, I can feel that my hips are much more fluid in my walking now. It's just been
beautiful.
awesome. Yeah.
So good. So good. I mean, there's so many different angles. We could talk another hour on this at least. But Hippocrates said that all disease should be investigated in the spine.
Yeah.
All dis- So if we have any pain anywhere,
Yeah.
any problems anywhere, it's
Yeah.
theoretically possible that simply loading the crown of our head and perfecting that posture right there
Yeah.
would really help a lot. Maybe even
Yeah.
completely resolve the symptoms. And
Totally. Totally. And this is, I worked with the mind a lot, right? And when I talk about healing, I talk about waking up from the mind and then healing through the body, because it's actually the body that heals. The mind doesn't heal. That's a misunderstanding. But we have to wake up from it. We have to see through the thoughts. But what I have found is people often, like, if they haven't gone through the body, right? They haven't found that flow in the body. They haven't found the stagnation and felt through it. It'll go like this. It'll go like, well, I know it's not true. I know my thought's not true, but it still feels true. And so the feeling seems to confirm the thought. It's like, well, but probably it's still true because it feels true. But
mhm,
when they have improved their posture or are letting themselves dance or do, like Randolph calls it, cuddling with those wounds inside, and the energy is then naturally released, whether
right.
through the breath or through dance or just sitting and releasing it, then it's like the thought might come, but it doesn't feel true and it just moves through.
Beautiful.
It's just like a signal that moves through. It doesn't get stuck in the body where it was stored.
I love that. I love
Yeah,
that. Yeah, maybe I know we talked about this at least one other time, but maybe next time we can have an image up or something for people to see. But
sure.
that what did you call the Taurus field?
Taurus field. Yeah.
right?
Yeah, it's in the other room. Yeah, the Taurus
Or
field, exactly.
or Tyra, right, asked about
Yeah,
what and what is illness, and
yeah,
in the Taoist cosmology, it's that Taurus field flowing freely is health, and
totally.
and any blockage of any of that energy is disease. And I think I might have described this maybe the first one, but there's that concept of a seed of trauma, right? That we experience something and it goes into our field of our being as a seed. And if we don't remove that seed, then it starts to take roots and it starts to grow. And the more it grows in our field of our being, our energetic fields,
Yes,
then the more it grows, the more energy, the more light it's blocking from coming out, right?
yes. Mm-hmm.
Because the light comes from the inside out.
Yep.
So, um, yeah, it's all correspondences, right? So we don't see people, you know, um, out, like doing yoga or doing, riding their bicycle or whatever they're doing. They're outside, they're moving, they're usually not frowning, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, moving, dancing, right? It goes along with feeling good. And it
Mm-hmm.
goes along with health. So,
Yeah.
so that Taurus field, that is representing, free flow and free movement in all
Yes.
from the
Yes.
center, out.
Yep.
And so I think, however that means to whoever's listening to this, whatever that means to you, to create a movement,
Mm-hmm.
that's
Mm-hmm.
that is what health is.
Totally. And it's so helpful to know that we are a Taurus field. We are an energetic field. We are fields within fields. We are a big Taurus field. We're connected to the Earth's Taurus field. There are
Yep.
Taurus fields in everything around you. Each chakra is its own Taurus field, its own
Yep.
vortex. And so, you know, and as we talked about last time, matter follows energy, which follows awareness. So if you put awareness where there's stagnation, we've already got it moving.
I'm so glad you just said that, because this is a good one. Okay. This is a good one for, what do we have? A few more minutes. I got
Yeah.
about 5:30 is the absolute latest, but I should probably be off a little.
Okay.
Okay. I almost started us out with this today. Thank you, PLR. Back to you, my friend. I almost started us out with this today, but since you just mentioned it all, let's take our hands here. Okay, we're gonna relax our arms, our shoulders, wrists. Everything's relaxed. Our fingers are relaxed. Breathing in slowly into the nose. Now we're releasing 100% out of the mouth. One more breath silently into the nose. With our next breath out, we're gonna energetic claws they're coming out. They're like tiger claws.
Ooh, I got my good talents with them too.
It's good. Oh, you got those talents. I like
Yeah. Look
Okay,
at
well, those are pretty beautiful. Okay. You're gonna have to be careful with those. But we're just gonna go in here, like right in here like this. We're just gonna dredge, like we're going deep energetically. We're dredging, and I'm gonna pull, and I'm gonna go. Okay, now we can just come back to center. So you had mentioned energy flows where attention goes. Something to that effect. That's another thing I learned at Santa Barbara Body Therapy Institute. And the very first class I took was foot and hand and ear reflexology, which is such a great tool. Every child should be learning this stuff. One of the first things she had us do in class was, okay, everybody feel the back of your neck, right at the base of your skull. Just notice, how does it feel? Any pain, Any tightness? How's your range of motion? If you go, like, how do you feel? How's the back of your neck feel? Now notice that for a minute. Okay. Now give your partner, you're going to trade 30-minute foot massages, foot reflexology massages. Okay. After the hour, okay, everybody now check again, feel the back of the neck. This is a scientific experiment that the FDA, the NIH, the CDC, if they actually cared at all, if they actually cared even one iota about helping you to relieve your migraines or many other symptoms, rather than just give you pills that actually make it worse. My wife's coworker got Botox for migraines recently.
Oh,
And she's having a horrible time.
of course.
Constant vomiting. They actually diagnosed her with some, like, what do they call it? They were like incessant vomiting syndrome or something like that. She's constantly vomiting. People are doing this to their face thinking that, oh, it's just my face, it's no big deal. No, the stomach enters right here and it goes down just right here, and it goes down here, and the urinary bladder enters here and it goes like this.
Yes.
Okay. The gallbladder here, and people are doing this not understanding that these are points where energy needs to flow freely through. And wait a minute, you just made it so that muscle can't ever work again.
Yes.
You realize how much,
Not to mention the toxin. Ugh. Yeah.
well, the toxin is the toxin. This is a good thing for people to understand. The toxins are not a big deal. Like a material toxin to our body, when we're embodying wisdom and kindness and calm,
When the flow is good. Yep.
when the flow is good, we're like, get right out of here. The liver takes care of it. We're feeling great. No big deal. The toxic state is the state of worry and fear and
Muscle being.
and the breathing shallow and the bad posture. That's toxic. Qi Gong medicine is about transforming that toxic state to the healthy state through breath, posture, mindset.
Great.
But what was I just saying? I just lost my train of thought.
Sorry, the Botox and
Botox. Okay. Yes. So going back to the reflexology class, backing it up. She had us put our hands here again. She said, how does the back of your neck feel now after having, giving a 30-minute foot massage and receiving a 30-minute foot massage? And everybody was like, oh my God, I have no more pain back here. Oh my, like I haven't moved like this in forever. Oh my God. And she's like, okay, so now you just learned that there's some connection between your feet and your neck and your head and your brain. So your body's connected. And you just learned that energy flows where attention goes. And what was happening when you first felt up here was that energy was all stuck up here, as it typically is in our culture. We're all up here. So everything's tight up here. Right? And then what happened was we spent an hour where your attention was as far from there as it could possibly be.
Beautiful. Yes.
Right? And so this is why a foot massage is literally, it's just so sick that every medical doctor over at the hospital over here is not just, they should literally just be sitting there doing foot massages.
Truly.
People would
actually touch the person first, and then the feet. Amazing. Yeah.
My wife just got home and my dogs are starting to go nuts.
You gotta go. Perfect timing.
Dr.
That was our bell.
I love you. Thank you so much. This is great.
Always great to see you. Thank you. Come back anytime. Thank you for your amazing work.
Likewise, my friend. Keep it up, and we'll see you next time. Okay. Healing's free, not easy.
Awesome. Love you. Talk to you later. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow for the Q&A on, I guess Doc will go, and then I'll just recap here. Love you too, PLR. Programming is insane. I'm sorry if I'm gonna, I'll maybe forward your questions to Doc if I can't answer them. Functional Doctors Clinic would not write mandate exemptions under their threat from the state medical board. I know, exactly. Vitamin D does help. Is the some reverse of people cave in? Maybe those that they love are being threatened. Sometimes people make wrong choices. I know. I happen to know this doctor, and he was he was protecting his business. Nobody was threatened for sure. Uh, we love the conversation too. I know, isn't it so fun? Is the body's organs all tied into the same cycle of high and low tides? I don't know. That's a good question for Doc. Um, I think overnight, I think it's like 2 12-hour cycles, and that yeah, there's a point of low tide and the high tide, and it's at night that it's high tide where they're repairing, basically, and which is essentially what Miriam says too, that at night, we really want everything to rest so that it can the cells can be rebuilt and all of that. Wait, what do you mean by high tide for our organs when they reset? Yeah, it's the reset time. This is a real question since beginning sorry, we missed these, of pandemic in spring 2020, I've been masking with an N95 in social situations like shopping. 2 or 3 colds lasting a week or so every year, but since wearing masks, no colds, which to me seems a correlation strongly suggesting the mask is preventing something. Help me think about this better. Um, it would be hard to say, Randolph. I don't know. Um, the doctors I've listened to about the whole virus thing and masks and everything, um, would say that the masks don't do much and that the environment, the garden of viruses and bacteria and all of it is actually we actually wanna breathe as much of it as possible, um, because we are nature, and so we don't actually wanna block it out, it actually increases our immunity. However, um, there's something to be said for wearing it and actually what psychologically that can do too. Um, and it's true, people carry all kinds of stuff, and if you are compromised, right, like, if you're a little compromised, if you've been in the truck all day, um, and there's something to be said for how much of the new garden you integrate at a time. So that's what I mean, actually came from Zach Bush, where it's the amount. So there's something to be said for if you wanna, I mean, again, this is not my area, but, uh that if you intuitively just know, "I just wanna have a mask on today." Great, do it, absolutely. Um, I would just go with whatever your intuition is. And in general, we shouldn't be scared of breathing in anything, because I as Zach described, literally in our air, there's like 10 to the 36 or something viruses just in the air, also in the soil, also in the water. So it's not like it isn't like you're not actually gonna be able to block this stuff. Um, but there's but but we're constantly integrating and constantly, like our garden of our especially our gut, right, is recalibrating all the time and giving ourselves a little more space and a little less to calibrate, especially if you're changing environments constantly. It makes sense to me that you might wanna wear a mask, and I'm glad to hear it helped. But this is again not quite my domain here. Charlene says, "Okay, you talk about how the body's organs are affected by the intake of food or drink, but what about practices like exercise or reading or watching TV?" Um, here's my response. It's always gonna be about whether and Charlene, you're gonna love all the radio hours. Um, there's just a lot to help you and support you in my meditations and stuff. You're gonna ground you in the body. And then what we're really talking about, and Doc is just such a great job of reflecting it, right? Reminding us of the practice that our body wants to do because we are all so profoundly disembodied just in this culture is it true? Is it what you pure awareness, which is the immortal awareness looking at me right now, and when that you, the immortal you, is deeply inside your own body, first of all, everything's gonna flow better, and then you're gonna hear, "Do I wanna be sitting right now? Do I actually wanna be watching a program, or am I a little restless?" Or am I thirsty? Or am I hungry? Do I want the salad? Do I want something warm? Everything is gonna start to your body shows you what she wants. So, it all goes back to embodiment, and all my, um, meditations and explorations and the healing hour will help you find that. I know, super info, right, Don? Thanks everybody for coming. Hi, NetFA. Can physical trauma to body parts requiring surgery leave lasting issues for the meridian the body part is on? Oh, that's a good question. Um, Again, feel free to reach out to Doc. He's very responsive on Substack. Um, I had, um, I've had two. So yes, it can disrupt it, but we are this never-ending current of energy, and the body is constantly being replenished. Um, so for instance, we have a new pancreas every day. So for instance, and I have like I've had two different acupuncturists. The first acupuncturist I ever had, I showed her my fingers. I have these sort of strange fingers where I have like divots in some of my cuticles because I had warts when I was a kid and I had to get surgery. And they're right on these acupoints. And I've learned a fair amount of energy healing and stuff where we do tapping or rubbing of acupoints. And there's this one where we're tapping these acupoints. And so this one acupuncturist said, "Oh, that's a real problem. You have scar tissue there. That means that you get blocked there." Um, but the acupuncturist I really liked, who seemed much wiser and was in practice a lot more, said it's no problem at all. That the meridian line adjusts and always finds a way in the same way that like water always finds a way to the ocean. So it's not actually an issue. Um, it's the stagnation thing. So when the wart was on there, it was probably much more stagnant, and actually to clear them, it gave a path for them to go down. Interestingly, my warts were on the meridian lines, and I'm sure that they had everything to do um, with the emotional, vibration of whatever ones they were on. I don't know if it's the stomach line or whatever it is. Um, but anyway, so it's sort of yes and no temporarily, but the body is so incredibly replenishing that I wouldn't worry about it. And I've heard that from acupuncturists um, advice. Energetic blockages manifest in every layer of our metaphysical anatomy, top down, bottom up, 100%. Yes, thank you, Ayana. Isn't that true? Sounds like the practice of Reiki. Yep, Reiki is just energy healing, right? It's all energy healing. Um, Emotion, the word emotion is energy in motion. Emotional and physical healing is the same thing. It's just moving blocked energy. It's that stagnant energy. Um, and it's all goes back to the body. So even any emotional storylines, they are stored in the body. That's where the stagnation is. But the body, of course, is this field. So it's all energetic stuckness and energetic release. And the emotional release, like if we have a good cry or something, it can be helpful, but it often doesn't get to the very, very root, which is pain or really the dense energy. Often in the center of the chakra, um, or one of these sort of core areas of the body. So, sort of like the liver. But I loved this talk of how the soft tissue along the meridian line of the liver, for instance, on the legs, if the liver organ is taxed, then those tissues have to be pulled from. So it tells you it's the line of energy. It's like a waterway. And if that waterway is, you know, toxified, then we've got to pull pure water from other areas. And that all goes back to it's like it's so true. If you're having a glass of whiskey at 11 p.m., yes, my interest coming from psychology is why are you drinking the whiskey? What's the belief? What's the fear? Having you reaching for something that your body actually doesn't want, which doesn't, I'm not against alcohol. It's just, is it true? Is it actually what your body's asking for? And, 99 times out of 100 at 11 o'clock at night drinking whiskey, it's a no. But so I would go there, right? I would go to what's the pain? What's the what's the fear and what's the pain? that's driving that. And we're going to talk about that tomorrow on the radio hour. We'll do another round of what's your fear? Another round of what's your fear? And then we'll go look together and see how it's not true. And we'll go heal together. Where is it in the body? And we'll go bring attention there. And like he said, energy flows where attention goes, and that'll start to open it up. So feel good, go dance in the rain. Absolutely. Dancing is my favorite energy healing. Loving the differences of life with a heart that views the outside of us with curiosity and love, not anything other than a loving interest. Beautiful. Do what makes you feel good, what you're passionate about. Laughter. Yes, yes. Hi, Lisa. Thank God for the God of giggle. I love you too. Staying in the body without dissociating. I understand that, Charlene. Feel free to DM me. Um, and I get it. It bounces you out. And there's going to be stories there when you go in. It's like a story about the pain or whatever you find there, and I could help. And you could also come on. You could come on live if you wanted to do a live session. I'm happy to work you through it, and because whatever you're healing, everybody's healing from. But feel free to DM me if you don't want to come on live. No problem. Um, but it's going to be, our natural state is embodiment. So I get the habit of dissociating. Um, but I'm gonna go right there. What's that belief that bounces you out? Um, and a lot of times, and we talked about this with phosphine, all of us have this. It's a story about the sensation. It's not the sensation itself. And the stories are never true. So feel free to send in your fear tomorrow, and we'll go through whatever the fear is in your body or whatever why you dissociate, why you check out. And it's all healable. All disease perfecting posture. I know that the posture thing is huge. He has really helped me out with that. So if disease generates from the spine, when you hear people saying the others are spineless, then where else can you pinpoint disease coming from? Yeah, so it's like I was just saying, where a lot of stuff is stored. It's stored deep in the middle of the chakra, which is along the spine. So, um, so getting to the core, it's the center of the body. It's like it's just like pulling out a root, right? We got to pull out the root. The root is usually deep, deep in the center of the body. Um, so so dis-ease, right? Just dis-ease. There's lack of flow. It's not easy. It's hard because it's tight. So literally just putting awareness in your spine. Doc was saying, he loads the head with weight, but you could also just imagine something being up there and you start to straighten up. But what happens with weight on your head is that it demands this alignment, because it's the body reads it as like, oh, there's weight up here. I better stand straight. And then that flow goes. And then I would just add feel into your spine, feel into the center of your body. You don't have to know why, you don't have to whatever, and do your best to not believe any thoughts about the sensations you feel. But just feeling into your spine is going to open up the shushumna, which is the line of energy in front of the spine, and open up the spine itself. It's all part of that center of the torus field. So just feeling your spine is huge, and yeah, loading the head definitely helps. Hopefully that helps you answer it. So much love to you. My claws and hisses are activated. Oh, good. Oh, good. Energy fields. How can people keep themselves from absorbing others' energy? I'm speaking about those who are extremely sensitive to others. Yep. So the best way to do that is yourself to embody, is to be very, very in touch with your own energy field. So that's going to go back to feeling into your spine, feeling into your organs, feeling into your heart, feeling into your skin. I've got hours and hours and hours, dozens and dozens, probably hundreds of hours of meditations. If you go to megrokel.com or on my Substack, the free healing section, go there. And everything I do is about coming into the body first and then opening from there. And that's going to buoy up your field. And what happens then when your field is robust, another field comes in and it doesn't pull your energy out. Now we got to open up, so the mind, to see what you're believing that gives you, like, that has you leaving your body and giving your energy out. But it takes two to tango, right? I've been I'm the queen of being around narcissists and vampires who took my energy, but I gave it out. Um, so now that I'm more stabilized in my body and I'm not believing the thoughts that would um, have me hijack myself, that there's this robust energy and I suffer no fools. You can't get in. um, so those will help. Those will help. Go do those. They're on YouTube and Insight Timer and here and all kinds of stuff. So we are actually killing ourselves. Yeah, we are so disconnected, but we're reconnecting. How about that human connection? Healthy, good touch is awesome. Totally, totally, it is. Very helpful response on the masking. Okay, good. Thanks, Randolph. If we always are afraid to live life because there's something we fear, are we ever going to get a chance to live life? Yep, it's fear that blocks us. So see what your fear is. What are you most afraid of? What is the thing you never want to have happen? Let me know, and we will talk about it tomorrow on the radio hour, noon tomorrow. Um, Charlene says childhood traumas must have a lot to do with blocked energy. If you've lived with that for so long, how can you replace what you know? Yeah, so the trauma is in the belief. So it's not actually known. It's actually a belief. And we believe all the thoughts that come our way, all of the traumatic things and abusive things that are said to us. We just believe them. We believe everything we thought we think. Um, but we actually question them. We do a process called inquiry. If you look up Byron Katie, thework.com, she's got good inquiry, but it's really simple. Can I absolutely know that that's true? This thing that I think I know. And so our process is to take awareness, see through the thoughts that you think you know, the beliefs that you were taught about yourself, about the world, about all of it, and then feel through where it is stored in the body. That's the waking up and healing process. It's basically the same process. Um, Open the mind, open the body. And it's all healable. It doesn't matter how traumatized you've been. It doesn't matter how harmed you've been. It doesn't make the thoughts any more true. It doesn't make your beliefs about yourself any more true. And we are this open field. We can heal. Doc has healed unbelievable amounts of physical pain by himself, just by opening his spine. Right? It's still this opening process. And I have worked with people with all kinds of childhood trauma, and we're healed. Like we're there. so, um, so, so feel free to check out my stuff, Charlene. And there's a lot of support there. And DM me if you wanna have a session on online. All right, y'all. Thank you so much. What a vibrant conversation. Thank you, Doc. I see you came back in. And awesome. We'll be back tomorrow for the Q&A on your fears. I'm gonna show you how your fears aren't real. And Thursday, we've got Candace DeMeza here next week. Netta Faye will be here Monday. Claudia will be here to talk the father wound and the religious wound on Tuesday. And Niels Barazil will be here on the 24th to talk male genital mutilation and how we must stop circumcision immediately. So, lots on the docket. And if you are a healer and you want to come on and talk healing and share your good work, DM me. If you are somebody who wants to come on for a free session and work through your own stuff you're struggling with, DM me. And that's it. I'll see you tomorrow. I'll be off the week of the 16th. I will still be active on Substack, but I just won't be here for the radio hour. But yeah, that's it for now. All right. Love y'all. Thank you for coming, and we'll see you soon. Bye.